Hi, it's been about a week and so many things to catch up on, and a lot of frustrations and a lot of time spent on very small things trying to get them right. At this stage, it seems like so many things are just not going that smoothly. Let's start with the most obvious one, is that this brand new charger, and when I say brand new, it was brand new in about 2004, but kept in the box, as well as the 2 battery packs that were bought along with this boat at the same time. Totally unused. Now this battery says discharged, supplied. And I assume that to mean absolutely discharged, but the problem is it won't charge. The charger won't switch on. Now, I know these batteries can get bad, but they can't get bad if they were never used. All they can do is lose the ever so slight charge that may have been present. So I'm going to have to make a separate video because I actually need some expert advice, and I have looked up some. And by the way, I know the charger works because I took this old battery which I have, which came with something that I bought. I've never even used this. Just plugged it in to see if it'll charge. Yes, it charges. So I know there's nothing wrong with that, but I did look up on a video that says if a battery is, they call it dead. Now, dead is technically more used when a battery has been alive and is then dead, as opposed to being dead when it's new. But when it detects 0 voltage, it won't come on. Which means that even though this one hasn't been used for years and years, but not the 20 years of this one, well, this one was never charged. You know, how many volts did this have and it allowed it to switch on? I presume it had next to 0 as well. So there's a bit of investigation there, because we've got these 2 brand new batteries, brand new charger, and the very short of it is that apparently you need to boost charge it just so that it detects a voltage. And boost charge means not on a charger that detects voltage in the first place. You need to sort of do what you do on a car when you jump start the car. It's just getting charged. There's no analysis of what's happening. You connect the one car into the other car and it just boosts it for a short while. But I don't know what to use to actually boost charge this. And that's my word, by the way. I don't know what it's really called. I'm not the most skilled on electronics. So that's the charger. So Servo, now this servo lead goes up to here, and as I said, I need one that goes up to here, and I found one with quite a long cord, this one being a Futaba, which is all good. So I decided to change it. I put that in and then realized that the Futaba, once the servo arm is on, sits quite a bit higher, good 3 millimeters higher, due to just the construction of that little bit above the mounting points, which means that this thing wouldn't be able to go on, and that thing, I'm really doing this the wrong way around now, is flat underneath, which means it absolutely has to fit onto there. So back to the ACOM server, back to that servo arm, and I need to do, and I do have wire. I looked through all my things. It's just that every little thing now requires something to be done, and that, that's 2 ends of soldering joints. Anyway, no problem. This little arm to the rudder, do you think I could find the correct one? I have many of these to go through, but do you think I could find one that was just 1 centimeter longer? In the end, I had one old one and I've managed to get that to the correct length. The fitting of that what's the correct word for that? The horn on the axle, the control horn on the rudder axle, not easy that either. That needed a bit of modification and drilling. But anyway, that is in, and I have that part of it correct. I do need to remember that before we go anywhere, that prop needs to be fitted on either with silicone tape to make it very tight on the shaft. I'm not keen to super glue it on or thread lock it on. So probably silicone tape. The last thing I want is my prop spinning off to the bottom of the lake. Engine mount on. And that strap there is just per chance a little something from, I can't even remember what it was, that was some mounting. Turns out it's stainless steel. Very, very difficult. It's very thin, very handy, very nice. Incredibly difficult to sand through. In the end, I had to punch 2 dimples into where I wanted it and then grind it off on the other side so that it was very little, and then drill it through. So that is in. Now what I wanted to do and what I did cut is vibration mounts, and I have got thinner material as well. This is quite nice and spongy, just to reduce the entire hole sounding like an engine. In the end, I've decided that's okay. Tough luck. And the reason again for that is that the height, which you can't quite make out, the height of the motor is exactly okay to fit under there. Now that's half open and half closed, and the engine fits right in between those two. So again, little bit more planning to actually seat this entire unit, that plank lower. When I initially fitted it, it looks like there's tons of space. But anyway, that's in and it's done, and it's nice and secure but fairly easy to get out. I do need to mount engine cables. That isn't done, so it'll be something like those, even though it's not. This is probably a little bit too thick. I've got this one as well. Okay, the 2 lead pieces are in, which you can just see there. So that's sort of a midships, and it's I must say that with a battery, and it's pretty heavy, I'm not sure how much more is going to be required, but we'll see there. We've got the space for it, and the ones that are difficult to access. So then I grab this, I said I was maybe not going to try it, but I grabbed this double-sided 3M tape, which is very, very gummy if you've ever used this. So I cut myself a piece and I fit it onto the lid, and I test it onto that. Not going to grab. The surface of the lid is, even though to the touch is okay, it is too powdery. And I mean, there's no actual powder. You can rub this and clean it up, but it just wasn't going to do it. So then I thought, okay, well, double-sided tape is out, but I have no other idea. And I don't want to fix those, I don't want to glue them in. So I thought, okay, we'll use the double-sided tape just as a vibration mount, just as a rubber thing. So even though it's not holding it on, I'll put that in. Get a piece there, put it in. At first it didn't grip to the wood even, because it was a little bit dusty, but eventually I managed to get it to grip to the wood on the inside. Then I fitted that piece of lead, and it just didn't seat quite correctly right down to the keel on the inside. And then it went and touched onto the double-sided tapes, top and bottom, and suddenly attached beautifully. So what wouldn't, while I was testing it, it wouldn't grab on at all, but put it in the wrong place and it'll grab on beautifully. So then I had to spend a bit of time wrenching that out. Luckily it did come out okay, and be very careful and put it in on the right point. And now it's attached very nicely with a double-sided tape and not easy to get out at all. But at least it's not glued in. But I don't expect to have to take that part out. So we've got those pieces of lead weight in there. The one piece of shelf that I had shown over there, which I don't know where I've put that now, there's just too much stuff to put in here, so that one's not going to be going in. So now it's just trying to organize the speed controller and the receiver into there, because the battery takes up that space. And then the switch, I mean, that was about 3 days just to get that switch right. So this is what I was looking to be able to do, so that you don't need to open it and it's fairly easy. Not the easiest, but or not from this angle that I'm working at here. But why is that? Oh, it's because it's grabbing. Oh, it's just the angle I was working at it. But look at how I've mounted that switch. So I cut a very nice piece of you know what I used, and right now I can't find the remains of that, is the piece of aluminium off a stiffy disc. The sliding piece of aluminium, quite nice to cut, quite nice to use, and could attach there, and I could make those points. I made 2 of them. The first one didn't quite work out very well. But then attaching that to that bulkhead, I wanted to try not to do much damage. I put in 2 screws, but you can see that you now need to access it via screwdriver from the side. Very bad choice. It is so difficult, and of course as soon as I put it in I needed to remove it another 3 times, because getting this thing in was absolutely not the easiest. But it's in, it's done. The lesson learned there is you have to do things in a manner that is removable very easily, even if you intend never to remove it, because the moment it's in, you'll need to remove it. So internally, we are getting there. Oh, okay. So last thing, I was hoping to find a usable and a radio set where everything actually belonged together from the word go. So what I've got now is the receiver and the transmitter from ACOMS, but on different channels. They've got different crystals in. And I thought I might find some stuff, and I haven't found, so far that's not usable, and I may need to change to Futaba. Because Futaba, I've got a number of sets, but the only difference is I then need to use a 4-channel on a 2-channel item, and well, so be it, I may need to do that. But that's okay, because the receiver isn't fixed in there yet. It's easy enough. Oh, the big problem is then this ACOMS servo. I have to use this ACOMS servo now. The lead, I think, fits Futaba okay, the plug, which means that should be okay. But anyway, we're still at that point where we need to test. Now, if you'll have noticed, there's a post. The mizzen mast is actually, correct me if I'm saying that wrong, I don't know how to pronounce, but I'm guessing it's mizzen mast. So that is in, just fitted, just turned into there. It's a loose fit, it can pop out at any point, which means you can see that I have started the tapering. And in fact, with the frustrations that were going on, I decided to just dive into the first part of the tapering. And this is 2 parts. This is the derrick and the mizzen mast boom. So that'll get cut off there just at the end there. But I decided to start with these little 3mm ones. I think that's okay. I don't think there's any particular need to go thinner than that. Oh, and I left the derrick tapered, but not too thin, because that actually does need to carry weight, not on the model but in the reel. So I'm imagining that it would be a bit of a thicker thing than the boom for the rear sail, for the mizzenmast sail. So those are done, and since I achieved that and it went faster than I thought, I moved on to, I thought, let me try a difficult one, which is the rod, which I said I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to do that. This is one of the 2 fishing rods. Very long and not easy at all to get that tapered, but very good that it's done. And I'll just show you. So that's the other one. The difference that makes. So same at my finger, and then that's what it looks like towards the end. Now again, I could go thinner, but I don't think there's any particular reason to. It's tapered. When you just view it on its own, you don't actually notice that taper as much as when it's next to the untapered item. And then you realize how much I've actually done there. So I've done that one, and I'll do the other one in the week. That is the most difficult of the taperings, by the way. Such a long and thin one. I would say 2 hours, which is not bad considering that it was 1.5 years ago that I was pondering how to even approach the tapering. Then the mizzenmast, which, as you can see, came out very well. So I'll be working on attaching the boom and getting the sail on. And I don't really like it with the sail furled. I actually do like the sail open, but that adds the sort of extra delicate arrangement at the back. So that'll sort of be one of the last attachments as well. But the fit is very nice in there, and I do need to decide on what to do about the painting on their box. They have got, no, it's not the easiest to see. They've got all of their masts a green color with white highlights. I quite like the wood look, but at the minimum I do need to varnish, but I probably think it is worth putting some colorations at some points on there. Next, I then decided to tackle the second most difficult, but the most complicated of the masts, which is the main mast. And that is tapered and has the ladder on, and amazingly, as you can see, I've actually achieved a quite acceptable, I wouldn't say perfect, I would say maybe 80 or 90% good ladder, very firmly. There's the holes coming out the other side, and as it turns out, I didn't have any, I sort of filed them down more than required even before I fit them in, which is quite handy in that I didn't need to pull them out. So each one, once it was in, and I've got the holes to put a bit of super glue in, so that's quite good. They're in pretty tight, but I don't want them coming out. Now there's still a lot of things that go on the main mast. I'll show that in a next video, because I'll probably be working on that today. But this is the one with only 8 rungs, and I'm very glad that that's done at least. And the last one then is the foremast, which has 18 rungs. And I can tell you that apart from the planking on this ship, which I would say is the most difficult skill, I'm going to say that fitting the ladder rungs in is even more difficult than tapering. I thought the tapering was going to be way more difficult than it is, but getting the ladder rungs in and the drilling. So what I did was I created this jig, which I should actually just show you, which just clamps it down, and you draw a line, so it clamps it, you sort of give it a little bit of a curvature there, it clamps it down into there, just so that it doesn't move while you are drilling, so that you can hold your little hand Dremel and get those those holes drilled at least all in the same line. So that would go in there, that would hold it in position. Then I'd angle it for the one side, get it vertical, so that I can hold my drill and drill the holes. This wood is much harder than the pine. Drill those holes, get it going through into the pine. I was hoping to end up with, if you see that one, two little holes right next to each other. I was hoping to achieve that all the way around, but some of them came out virtually next to each other. But that's okay, because what I was thinking is that the two pieces of wire, as they sort of force out, would sort of meet there. As it turns out, they are inside the mast, which is all good. So it all worked out well. Then you adjust it and do the other side's holes, and you do have to plan it. And okay, my marks are not present on here anymore. You do need to plan it such that you've marked a line all along the mast for the one entry point of the rung. You've marked a line there. They probably 45 degrees apart. And then you've marked lines on the other side where they need to come out. So then you need to adjust this, because you're not drilling through the circle, and it's a little bit tricky to you've got to start your hole and then come down to there. Then you've got to shift this to there, start your hole, and then go down to there, and those 2 points are right next to each other. I probably couldn't do this as well as it turned out on this one again, and I still need to do it on the foremast. Now, regarding the tapering, so with my much effort that I put into this machine that I was going to, well, a slider that goes onto the drill, that fits onto the drill press, and you can slide the mast up and down while the rotating sanding drum helps you. I think, nice idea on my part. It would need more precision and arrangement than just doing it the way I did it in the end, which was just holding it by hand. Mark one eyeball, mark one hand. And yes, it takes a little bit of care, and then with a lot of sanding using that block, and just inside the sandpaper like that. I would say that probably this in the end is most of the work. So as I said, I will do a video of at least a little part of starting the tapering on, probably on the foremast, because on that rod, the rod is just a little bit thin to maybe see on the video as well as the foremast. So yes, abandon the idea that I thought was going to work for a long time, and just dive in and do it, and that's a bit of a lesson in itself. At the worst, you lose a mast because you've damaged the manner in which you've tapered it, but it's not the worst. I thought it was going to be a lot more of a difficult task than it is, and probably because I'm using that particular sanding disc, it did make the job a lot easier than it could have been. So I will make a little video on batteries because I need to ask those questions, which technically is out a little bit outside of the model boat video set. I will make a video possibly today where I start the tapering on the foremast. Just to mention then, I did do it that method where I drilled all the holes while the mast was still untapered, and then I tapered, and that did work very well. And I'll do the same. So I need to, draw the lines on my foremast carefully with a metal rule, which is more than double the length of this one's number of rungs. Space them out exactly 1 centimeter apart. It is noteworthy that the Marina was discontinued and that I'm not seeing a single build online, at least not on YouTube, maybe on some of the ship forums. But a lot of the ship forums lost a lot of their images along quite a while back when there was a problem with the photo hosting services. But were there so many problems with this boat as far as being a beginner's boat to build that they discontinued and changed to others? I don't know the reason why that is. One of the reasons is this thing, because in hindsight, the amount of space that they've left here for the attachment of a pretty important part, really, if you were going to redesign this should have a much longer arm so that it reaches much further in, giving you much more attachment point. Anyway, drilled the hole, put in a brass screw, tested it out, and just to remind you that, as someone had said, just go with it the way that little pin is misaligned, because with a slight change in angle, the problem is, and I tried it, and it got a bit tight, so that it turned easily one side and difficult on the other side. And what's happening is that the misalignment doesn't go away, because the misalignment is also a fore-aft misalignment, not only a left-right misalignment. So technically, to correct that, and you can actually see that misalignment right there, this would have to shift down quite a bit like that. Which I was going to go with, but having it screwed in place and turning this, I realized that all that's happening is the steel post on both sides is actually just rubbing against the aluminium. Because you've got this misalignment, you've got this ever so slight rubbing action between the shaft and the rudder. And in the long term, that aluminium is going to get eroded away to the point where it does become a little bit loose, and I don't really want that to happen, as opposed to, again, addressing the problem of this thing. So I'm going to have to drill it out. Drill that out. The post, by the way, is not the issue, it's that. So I need to drill out from the bottom and be able to knock out that bushing, widen this hole now, so it won't be a nice fit anymore, and I'm going to have to just glue it in position or something. But I'm going to have to do that after this is fitted, because I didn't realize the quite great importance of getting the shaft, and I suspect that's one of the reasons why this boat is not really a beginner's boat. The great importance of getting those two aligned. So I'm going to have to mount this remaining piece with the bush a little bit loose so that it can take up the exact angle. And realistically, again, if I was redesigning this, I would just have a single shaft going down to which you attach the rudder, even though it affects the prop wash, the flow, ever so slightly. Honestly, it's not going to be a big deal on a beginner's boat. There's no real reason to have a double two axles that need aligning. So there's still a number of problems to solve before this is heading towards completion, but we are getting there at quite a good rate. So a lot of the things, mainly the tapering and achieving the ladder, so that's already, I mean, that's a huge step forward in having that one done, so the main mast can get completed. So it's a lot of progress. I wouldn't say the happiest of progress. It's can be a little bit frustrating, but we're getting there. And it isn't meant to be a, you know, it was a boat to learn on, and that's exactly what's happening. Learning about all the things you didn't realize you were going to be learning about. I am happy with the switch connection. I am happy with the motor, although actually I've just realized the motor can still budge a little, although that's not the biggest of deals. You know, and the one thing about the boat is the worst that can happen is it just stops and turns into a floating boat. It's not like a RC plane which is going to go down. So a lot of the things which are not as perfect as they could be, I mean, let's just say while you're going, this tube just comes off. Let's say I didn't glue it on, I haven't glued it on, but let's just say I left that and it turns off. Well, then your boat's just static and you just go and fetch it. So, you know, it's forgiving in the sense of any of the final operational aspects weren't quite up to scratch. You just fix them and next time, okay. When I do the gluing of the masts, I just need to make myself aware, standing on the keel and putting up a ruler next to that so that it stands vertical, you do need to make sure that your mizzen mast, and the other masts for that matter, but particularly the mizzen mast, because it's quite easy to get that angle wrong, is vertical in that orientation and in that orientation. So obviously I'd need to work a method of ensuring that, especially when the other mast is, so probably the main mast needs to get on, because that's got two mounting holes which keeps it at a very fixed angle, and ensure that your masts all align. Nothing worse than having a boat where, as you look down, you're seeing you know, a bit of mast misalignment. So we're getting there. Okay, that's already a 32-minute video. Happy modeling.